Today on Top Gear Rearview, Jeff has a beer. And I also have a beer.
Welcome everybody to the inaugural episode of Top Gear Rearview. My name is Jeff Lodahl. Over on the other side of this microphone is Brady Kirkwood. Tonight we are kicking things off with the revamped Top Gear UK Season 1, Episode 1. Mr. Kirkwood, when did this air?
This episode aired on October 20th of 2002, and as Jeff said, this is the first episode of the quote-unquote new Top Gear with Jeremy Clarkson and company. The special guest tonight was Harry Enfield.
And tonight they reviewed the Citroen Berlingo Multispace. The power laps were done by the Pagani Zonda C12S 7.3 and the Lamborghini Murcielago. Let's see what else we got on tap. The kind of challenge was Richard Hammond trying to beat a speed camera, and I guess what we would call a regular car review would be a Mazda 6. So I guess let's get right into it. Right into the Citroen Berlingo Multispace. This was a cheap car. This was 9,000 pounds.
That's a cheap car.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know pounds. I thought pounds was a unit of weight, but I'm an American.
That's like 1,000 pounds per glove box.
That is true. That thing had storage in places that I just would not think to put storage.
Everywhere. Just cubbies everywhere. Yeah, it's a bit of an ugly duckling, this car.
You know what I gotta say? So they showed the seats in the dashboard, which were like green and like khaki. Oh my god, I loved them so much. It looked like a nice like kind of like high denier fabric that would just hold up to stains and wear. And I was like, yeah, I'll take that in all my cars.
I mean, it definitely lives up to its. You know, it's just kind of a modified van. That's the style of van they have over there. It's essentially a car with a big box on the back. And you see those all over the place. And that's exactly what it is. It just looks like that. But they just took out all of the useful stuff, put in green and beige interior, and a bunch
awesome seats.
A bunch of glove boxes.
Yeah. For reference, 9,000 pounds. We went and did the math there. That was let's see. This is not assuming across the pond is no bonus taxes or anything, but it would translate to just shy of $14,000 back in 2002. A little shy of 19,000 right now. So I mean, still a pretty cheap car. There are cheaper cars in the market as we were looking through some of them. But for the kind of utility you get, not a lot.
Yeah, I mean that had a lot more space and options and storage than what we found were the cheap cars like a Nissan Versa or a Kia Rio. Or a Chevy Spark. I mean, a Chevy Spark is so small, and this thing legitimately looked like it could hold a certain number above two in like full-size adults.
The Chevy Spark, we have kind of looked at those recently, and they just don't have any area behind the rear seat. So it's like this one actually kind of did look like a van or like sort of a wagon where you could have something behind those rear seats with people in them, as opposed to just having to knock them down to get any kind of storage. So I did write down the competitors, which I think was the Fiat Doblo, if I remember right. Ford Tornio, not the Transit, but the Tornio Connect, and a Renault Tango, if I recall correctly. None of which have ever been available stateside, so didn't really have a good frame of reference for this. I was trying to think if there's anything that I can remember from that era that would kind of compare to it, and it was kind of all just minivans back then, so I don't know that we really had anything.
It's like a really small Toyota pickup truck with a really big camper on it. That's essentially the only thing we have.
Fair enough. I mean, I was thinking, like, I had it, my Protege 5 was an 02, so that was a 5-door hatchback, but it was much more a traditional hatchback, and that was kind of tall and more van-like. So I think that style didn't particularly make its way over here.
No, I guess we never needed in the United States, never had the use of a small, big car. We would just get a big car. If you need something that holds a lot of stuff, you're going to buy a Suburban or whatever. Yeah. It's just it's not the same needs that we have over here.
Exactly. So did you like his test of capacity and whatnot?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't really understand. I guess there's a lower tax on booze. He drove it down through the Channel to Calais, France, to go booze shopping. Apparently, it's cheaper over there.
I guess. I mean, like, so for instance, we're in Idaho. We're very close to the Oregon border. There's no sales tax in Oregon. If you're going to go for like a Costco run and you make it over the border and gas doesn't cost that much, you might save some money.
It's like us going over the border here in Colorado to Wyoming to buy fireworks, is what I see.
It is. It is.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess that's a thing that you do. You go to the big booze warehouses down there, and you load up your Bolingo multi-space with so much booze that the custom agents confiscate your car. Apparently, it's a
We're not just taking your booze; we're taking your car.
The car's an accomplice in all this, so he's got to come downtown.
30 a day is what they said, right?
30 a day is so many cars.
So many cars.
I don't know how many cars fit onto the train channel or onto like
30. It's just they choose a train load and they're like, all of you, you're done.
Get over here. I don't care if you're on
home.
your vacation. Get over here.
You got any booze in the car? That's
yeah. Exactly. How much? There's only one of you. Get over here. I thought his review was interesting. It's a few of his nitpicks. He was very happy with the car. There was not a lot of negatives. One of his few nitpicks was the sound of the power locks, which they call central locking. One of them, he says normally they make a bzz or a pt, and then he made the locking noise. He locked the doors, and it sounded like every car I've ever owned in my entire life.
Yeah.
Kuka. That's what it sounds like. Apparently in the UK, they say bzzz.
Unacceptable.
But that's really the only bad thing he had to say about it. He loved everything else about it.
Yeah, it was, he did mention a couple things. He said the X Factor and it had character. And I was like, those were I didn't expect that kind of Clarkson mannerism to come out so early in the series. Because he says that about, cars that are not necessarily great cars in their segment, but are cars that he likes well into future series. So hearing that right up front, I was like, okay, this has been around since apparently day one.
Apparently since episode 1. I don't really prescribe to the notion that cars have this, and you might disagree with me on this one, might be a point of contention, but a car doesn't have character. It's either...
car has so much character.
Got features, and it either... The way, when people say that their car has character, it means to me that it's not very good.
No, cars have personalities, man.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Cars
Every
are
single one I've owned. No. Cars, some cars you gotta bargain with. You gotta talk nice to get them to do right. Some are just workhorses and they're the dependable friend that's always there. They have everyone has their own little thing.
They're machines.
They're good machines. What'd you think of the girlfriend of that owner?
I'm assuming that entire intro is... So I talked with the owner of this particular store, and then it almost sounded a little condescending or a tongue-in-cheek, and his girlfriend.
Yeah.
I didn't help but notice that she didn't say anything.
No, relative levels of attractiveness, too. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's her daughter, but...
Or is not from France. I mean, he obviously wasn't from France. He moved to France to sell booze to English people.
Yeah. Or somebody, I would assume, based on... some of the other things that'll again come up way later in this set of series, that he might be Albanian.
Yeah, no, he was.
I liked that they mentioned that immediately, and I was like, that throws way out into 19 or so, series 19.
The thing I think I liked most about that particular booze complex owner was the fact that he was arguing for his way of life, which you're going to do. You own the booze store. You want people to be able to come and buy them, not getting picked up by the customs agents. But he argued for it that 500 bottles of gin is only a year and a half supply of gin if you drink a bottle a day.
Yeah. And I mean, you're Russian.
He's not incorrect, but a bottle of gin a day is a lot of gin. At some point,
I don't think I do a bottle of gin a year.
You're gonna get sick of gin,
Yeah.
This is too much gin. You gotta switch it up. You gotta get something else in there. You can't just keep pulling the same guy out to pitch every day.
No.
His arm's gonna go bad. I have some conversions for you. We talked about the glove compartments. The Bolingo multi-space has glove compartments galore. In the ceiling, in the floor, in the trunk, in the front, everywhere. The one in the trunk, he commented, could hold 10 kilograms of booze.
Okay.
That was
the upper one, the one above.
Yeah, it was above. Right? You open up the tailgate, and then there's this drop down from the top to hold. In America, it would obviously be your shotgun, but in the UK, it's 10 kilograms of booze, which ends up being 3 bottles of wine, which is not that much. That's not too bad.
No.
Similarly, about 3 bottles of spirits. But you could fit like 28 beers in there.
Okay. A case and, a nice 4-pack.
Yeah, but they'd all have to be open. Like, they'd have to be outside of the case.
Yeah.
And so...
Pour them in there, right? It's all probably watertight.
Yeah, so when you open it up, they all come...
It's just tumbling.
You're either going to want no beers or all 28 at once. You got to be ready. You got to get your whole team around. Everyone get their hands out. Maybe some fishing nets or something. You pop that open, everyone gets beers.
There you go. All right. The one thing I wanted to mention too, so they had Jason Daw, who was only around for Series 1 on there, and it seemed like he was like the used car advisor guy.
It seemed like he was the shifty wheeler and dealer, not unlike yourself.
Yeah. But he was talking about the redesign, which did come the year after, and he said you could get those ones for as low as 7,700 British pounds. So it's like, okay, I did the math there, and that puts it in the $16,000 range today. So I mean, you're talking, if you're reasonably optioned there, you're right in the midst of kind of the entry level, anything on that side. So it's about right.
Well, I guess there's one thing we need to talk about is he said that they're going to reduce the price so it's as if you're not having to pay any VAT, which is value-added tax.
Value-added tax.
So presumably on a 9,000-pound car, you'd be paying $1,300 in tax. Okay. So they drop it by $1,300. So when you have to, I guess on a 7,700-pound, you pay $1,300 or pounds. And so they dropped it to 77 so that when you had to pay the tax, it got you back to 9,000.
Okay.
So I guess you still paid 9,000, but the other one wasn't 9. It was actually like, 10 and a half, 11.
Yeah.
With the tax on top, which is considerable. That's a lot of tax.
Yeah. The interesting thing is we did some other math offline here, and we saw about a 15% difference in like a similar model, or the same year. We were using our Ford Focus as the kind of standard. We saw that a car in the U.S. With the conversion rate at the time cost about 85% of what a car in the UK costs, and now doing that value-added tax, $7,700 car with a roughly $1,300 or pound VAT, that's about a 17% VAT. So that really does line it up pretty well.
I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, there we go. We did some math. We learned some stuff.
All right. Can we stop?
So I gotta say, what do you think about the Multisport?
It's not for me. It's
okay.
It's kind of an ugly little duckling. I guess maybe they could have chosen a better color. It was pretty, as they would say, shocking. I guess it's a useful car. It's got a lot of features, but it seemed, the way that central locking sounded, man, I don't know. It seemed pretty cheap.
Ruins it. Just garbage after awful. That. I'm not usually too worried about ugly cars. It was pretty ugly. I mean, I liked everything but the looks. It was just not a very attractive car.
Yeah, but it had, I think it might have been, if I had a family in the United Kingdom with all of that. I mean, I guess my wife had commented. She's like, look at all those places for kids to hide all your crap.
Yeah.
Just like cubbies above, cubbies
That's where
below.
I can put candy to melt.
Look at all of those places for mold to grow when you drop a package of French fries and your whole water in it. So, I don't know, maybe a bit too much features. A
lot of plastic. I mean, it'd probably be easily replaceable or cleanable, but yeah, I understand.
At that point,
I can agree.
Just hose that thing down.
Yeah, or burn it down.
I guess I have one more thing to say on this one, Jeff. He compared, it looks like the one he drove was the diesel version, which he didn't really like that much because it kind of felt like a van, he said. But he was high on the gasoline-powered one, even though he didn't drive it. And he had commented, if you get the gasoline-powered engine, it's got as many horsepower as a Mark I GTI. And I know that Jeremy loves the Mark I GTI, the VW Golf GTI, the very first one. But that came out in 75.
Oh, it is old, and I'm guessing it's in the neighborhood of, 87 horsepower or something?
Something really low. So I don't know if that's necessarily a good comparison or really a compliment. It's like this thing has as much power as something 30 years older than it. I don't know. I don't know if that's really...
but it was the GTI. It was the fancy car at the time, so who knows?
I suppose. I know Clarkson loves that thing, so...
yes, he does.
That's high praise from him.
So they did have news, which, they was not kind of formally introduced as such as they usually do in the more current series, but they kind of went through a few things. So
it certainly was the news.
It was the news. The interesting thing is they kind of, so they started with the Ford GT, which was at the time not really existing yet. It was in prototype only.
Concept, yeah.
Yeah, so because Clarkson came to love and then hate that car, if you recall from later ones, which we'll talk about eventually, I'm sure. But it was interesting hearing him talk about it because, 5.4 liter supercharged. I'm not sure if that's what that ended up with. I'll have to check, but about $150,000, which I believe that was right around the price range that it ended up at. So, and it did look quite similar to the production model. So it was cool seeing that. I don't know if the production model took so long to open the trunk, or I guess the engine cover. But
he went and talked about a couple other things, and then came back to it.
Came back.
He also
you peek under.
I mean, really, almost everything that he said was aesthetic about it, which I guess is what you would do about a concept car. He talked about the engine that was in it, and then he talked about the lift gate on the engine cover, and then he talked about the power gas cover, and then he talked about the switches and how well they looked, and then the shifter boot, which was metal. Yeah. He didn't really talk much about how it drove or anything like that, so I'm getting the idea that they didn't drive it.
Yeah, if you heard later, he said that model only went up to 20 miles an hour.
Oh well.
Yeah, so probably pretty boring. From what I recall, though,
real solid 20 though.
Yeah, I mean that test track took about 7 minutes. Yeah. They did carry over those switches, if I recall. I don't think they carried over the shift boot, and I almost guarantee they did not carry over this stupid little gas thing.
Yeah, I'm sure they didn't.
Yeah, it's cool seeing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I had for the news was they were talking about Fiat being kind of in dire straits, and they were talking about GM buying Fiat, which is kind of funny now because at this point Daimler Chrysler owns I guess it's just Chrysler owns Fiat, so or Fiat owns Chrysler. I don't remember which way it goes.
Fiat Daimler Chrysler became just Chrysler, and then Fiat bought them.
Okay, so obviously they came out of those dire straits just fine, and now own an American company as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, they talked about the upcoming budget for their highway initiative, I guess, in the UK, and I'd like to bring some foresight or some insight onto that. I used to live in Houston, Texas, and there's the highway out there, which is now the widest highway in America. Is I-10 headed west out of Houston to Katy. It's called the Katy Freeway. It, at some points, is 24 lanes wide.
Wow.
It's very big. I mean, this includes toll lanes and merging lanes, but there's two toll lanes per side, 2 merging lanes per side because of how they have it set up. So there's 8. And then, you throw in 6 or 8 lanes on each side, and all of a sudden you're up to 22.
Yeah. Wow.
And so I was looking it up, and they had commented that the budget would build 3 miles of highway, and I don't remember the exact numbers. Do you remember the exact numbers?
I don't have them written down offhand.
The Katy Freeway cost $10 million per mile to build.
Wow.
$10 million per mile. Essentially, the whole thing's elevated, but I just want to see how that comparison goes between the UK and the US. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's crazy money.
And then I'd like to talk about F1. They talk about F1. Yeah. They did some kind of classic Top Gear fan interaction with I guess we should say it now, the studio audience was very small.
Quite slim.
Maybe about 20 guys, one of who apparently doesn't like the Berlingo multispace. It's probably because of his mustache.
Yeah.
But they talked about F1. Now, I know these guys are big on their F1 racing. I know Clarkson is, at least. I'm not sure about the other guys. But he says, what are we going to do about F1? So that gave me some ideas to try to figure out, what was wrong with F1 at the time? And I went and looked at the 2002 F1 season. The first race, 22 people started, 8 people finished.
Wow.
And so, and then similarly, Michael Schumacher won
everything. He murdered every race, if I recall correctly.
11 races, and then didn't win 6. And the ones that he didn't win, he got second in 5 of them and third in 1 of them.
Yeah, so he was kind of dominating at the time.
There is someone not named Schumacher won almost every someone named Schumacher won almost every single one of those races. One of the races that Michael Schumacher didn't win, his brother Ralph won.
I didn't even know he had a brother,
Ralph.
Ralph.
Yep. Oh, poor Ralph Schumacher.
I know.
What a way to be.
Oh, man.
What, you're an F1 driver? Your last name's Schumacher?
Schumacher?
Are you Michael Schumacher? No, that's my brother. Oh.
Bye.
Can you put in a good word? I want to talk to Michael. At this point, also, Michael Schumacher was on his 4th season of a 5-season championship winning streak.
Wow. So he was kind of just dominating. He was the Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gathering that that's a very, very good comparison. I'm gathering this was the reason they weren't happy with it is because it was very stale. Michael Schumacher just won every single time.
Yeah, just destroying
the Ferrari cars won every single time. Rubens Barrichello, who in the future will be the first F1 driver to beat the Stig, was also his teammate at that time.
Spoiler alert.
Total spoiler alert. So that
if you haven't seen it,
yeah, I guess that's the news. It's always interesting what they bring up. They had a couple car reviews, but I think you hit on the one that I wanted to comment on. Besides the F1, was the fact that they were worried that Fiat was going to get bought by GM, and now Fiat owns one of the big 3 here in the States, and that's just interesting.
Yep, flip the script on us, crafty Italians.
Shifty fucking Italians.
So should we get into the meat of this episode, which I quite enjoyed?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
All right, Zonda. I love the Zonda.
It's a good review, good power review.
Yeah. So I did a little backup research here. So are you familiar? So Horacio Pagani is the founder of Pagani.
You know what? I don't know much about the Pagani company, so lay it on me.
Yeah, so he's Argentinian, but he worked for Lamborghini for a while. He was their composite manager. I did a little bit of a kind of a joint venture thing for a while where they did a lot of composite research stuff and then kind of spun off into his own thing for the Zonda. And if you recall, again, from later seasons, they made so many different editions of the Zonda. It's like almost hard to get them on one page on Wikipedia. There's like 40. But yeah, it was a very good car. I mean, it started strong and it continued strong. They've been with Mercedes for quite a bit using their engines, but otherwise, typically a full carbon fiber shell, and they're onto the Huayra now, and they were good cars, and this was back in the early days, so it was super cool to see a review. Really when they were just getting into the meat of the Zonda line, the actual kind of pseudo production level Zonda stuff, not just the show it at a car show kind.
Yeah, I mean they definitely hit the first episode with the big guns, getting the Zonda out there because I mean at the time it was still relatively new to the scene in terms of super rich people buying really fast cars, but it is a looker. It is a
I love
sick
the Zonda
looking car. It just looks good. It really is interesting because in this review they compare it directly. You said he worked for Lamborghini, which may be the reason they brought it up, or maybe just because it was new. They compared the Zonda directly with the, I guess at the time, new Murcielago. Yeah, was this the first year the Murcielago was out?
It was pretty new. Let me double check here, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was within the first couple years of production. I've never been a huge fan of the Murcielago.
Well, my point I was making is that the Pagani is what Lamborghini used to be. Lamborghini used to make really powerful cars that looked just sweet. The Diablo, the Countach, like just poster style cars, but they were hot garbage to drive.
Undrivable, so ridiculous, yeah.
And so now the new Murcielago comes out. This is supposed to be the big V12 Lamborghini. Like, this is the next Countach, and it looks bad. Wah wah.
Came out in 2001, so this would have been the second production year.
Okay, so this was very, very early on.
Yeah. No, and I don't hate the car. From what I heard, it's they've taken that kind of incremental step towards like what they have become now, which is the Aventador is a maniac car, but the Huracan is actually from what I hear, again, I don't drive these things, I have no money, but I hear it's a very drivable and actually like semi-streetable, like supercar.
Well, that's the sensible Germans coming in actually making something useful. That's not the flamboyant Italians. But what's interesting is that this guy made this Lamborghini killer in the Pagani Zonda, but he also made it from Lamborghini. Super drivable, just a legitimately fast car off the line through the corners, braking, all that sort of stuff. He made a legitimate race car, whereas the Lamborghinis never really were that. They were just really loud, big engine rocket ships that hopefully you can keep straight, Yeah,
for the love of God, don't lift.
Yeah, and so I've seen a Murcielago up close. I went to a bar in Aberdeen, Scotland, which has too much money to know it's good for it. and it's got a bit of a fat ass. It's a kind of a big car. It looks
all right,
hulking. The lines aren't very good to make it look a little slimmer. I mean, I understand it's a big car. It's got a wide wheelbase. It's got a big old V12 in it, but it looks just way, way too bulky.
There's a kit car running around town that's actually a pretty good replication of one, and it's funny because like the non quite supercar nerds on all the car things on like Facebook are like, oh, it's a Lambo, and I was like, it's close, but it's not. But yeah, seeing that, like, the dimensions aren't far off, and I gotta agree, like it's weirdly proportioned, and it is chubby in the back.
It's really got a big like engine cover back. It's like too tall up there. The slope is way too flat coming down. It just looks real big and fat. Whereas the Pagani has got all sorts of up and down lines. The front covers looks almost open wheel looking.
I know, and it looks like a fighter jet. Like, it looks like a cockpit as opposed to a passenger compartment. Yeah. So, yeah. Now I think it's a really valid comparison. I mean, 55 horsepower out of the Zonda versus 571 in the in the Murcielago. So, and it looks like, I mean, it showed pretty well on the lap times. I mean, obviously the Zonda ended up spanking it, but they had their kind of strong suits.
The wee little lap time board.
Yeah,
what it will become. It was interesting. It's 6 seconds is an eternity.
It really is, especially now.
It kicked the ever-loving out of it.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even close. And Clarkson kept trying to say that it was faster in the corners, and there's just no way.
No.
That's not all straight line speed. It
can't be. I mean, it is a 2-mile course, but there's a lot of corners in that one.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm not buying it. It's just way too bulky and big.
Yeah, speaking of that course, I had no idea it was designed by Lotus.
Oh, really?
That was new to me. I know that course well, and I thought it was funny. I was like, what the hell is Carpenter's Corner?
Yeah, they also there's Carpenter's Corner, and they said another one for like the second to last one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't remember the name, but yeah, they had names that I was like, that's not a thing. No,
I don't know.
I came into this too late, apparently.
The names evolved over time, but Chicago and Hammerhead, those always stayed.
True, yeah. So that was good to see. I pulled a couple more competitors of the era because I was kind of curious.
Of the Zonda?
Yeah. Now I was looking the Zonda was 310,000 pounds. The Murcielago was 160. So I mean, in that range, it was like, no, you could pretty much get 2 Lambos for that.
Considerably cheaper, yeah.
Yeah. But I was looking around to see what else was out there at the time. Koenigsegg was just coming on the scene. They had their first one, the CC8S, but that wasn't really Koenigsegg now with the CCX and their subsequent lots of different letter models have really come around. But that would have been right at the beginning of them kind of starting to appear. And that's a similar thing where I don't know where Christian came from, but Christian von Koenigsegg is the founder of Koenigsegg. And same kind of thing where he's just like a maniac and just makes crazy cars. So that was one. I had the Enzo, but the Enzo was honestly a little on the high side for price. That was another one of the kind of poster cars for Ferrari with the F40, the F50. The Enzo was the F60 technically. So a more realistic Ferrari would be the 575M Maranello, and that one was both in price. In price, it was not far off of the Lamborghini, and I think power it was a little down. It was maybe 45 horsepower down. It's like 525ish. But yeah, otherwise, I think pretty competitive.
The Enzo was out in 2002?
Yeah, I believe it came out in 01 or 02. It was right at that time.
Okay, all right.
That was a crazy car at the time. I have seen one of those up close in a dealership down in California. They would not let me open the doors, which I really wanted to. But yeah, same kind of thing where it's like it looks like a jet. Like it's got a cockpit. Like
it's got like the 3 noses on it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like a trident.
Yeah, almost. The headlights kind of have little ones, but the big one right in the middle. Yeah. Okay. All right.
I gotta say, yeah, that was of the the Lamborghinis mega cars from F40, F50. That one, and then the LaFerrari. It is my least favorite. Not a huge fan of the Enzo.
You don't like the
Enzo? It's not bad. It's just it. I see what they went big with it, and it's not a bad car. And I think it looks better in the FXX or whatever version that they put it in. That's the race only. But all in all, I think it's the ugliest of the 3.
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking about the Enzo again very soon.
I guarantee it.
All right. So the power laps, which would it's almost. I think we've beat it to death. Which one would you rather have? When they do the comparisons, we should choose one. I think it's Simple for me. The Zonda, obviously.
Zonda, no question. I mean,
here's a question. You have $320,000. Would you buy one Zonda or two Murcielagos?
One Zonda.
Okay. I mean, if you had a use for the two Murcielagos, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not going to, you can't fit car seats in a Murcielago, so two doesn't help.
That's a good point. It's a very good point. All right, Jeff, let's combine the speed camera segments that spread out through the rest of the episode down into one. Now, I guess...
Why was Hammond wearing a trench coat?
Because that
is the question.
So cool.
Because the Matrix came out about that time.
That's exactly right. So they did a challenge to see if you could go fast enough to beat a speed camera. I'd like to drop a little bit of information on the speed cameras. They are everywhere in the United Kingdom. Everywhere.
Are they?
I lived in Aberdeen, and I drove past 4 every day to and from work.
Oh, that's
They're
rough.
everywhere. Now, the speed cameras that they were testing are the ones that essentially just measure your speed, and if you're going too fast, take a picture of your license plate and send you a ticket. That type you can see. They have big, orange and yellow stripes on them because people got mad at people getting secret pictures taken of them speeding. So you have to know where they are. So on the drive to work or whatever, you know exactly where they are. So you know where you can speed and you know where you can't. Mm-hmm. But there's ones they have over there that are called average speed cameras. And I don't know if they ever have come out over here. There's a big one on the motorway from Edinburgh to Glasgow. And what they do is they take a picture of every car that passed point X on the motorway. And then, 15, 20 miles down the road, they take a picture of everyone again. And they calculate your average speed between the 2 points.
Over that. Oh.
So you have to go the speed limit. If you get there too fast, they will ticket you.
That's the way to do it. I mean, honestly, they crack that code. It's like, there you go. I'm sure there's ways around it, but there's not good ones.
Yeah, go really fast and then stop and hang out for a while. Smoke a cigarette.
Exactly. Go get a beer at the pub.
So they're everywhere. So I can see it's probably a hot topic, and I'm sure they talk about it a lot later on. But it's interesting to see, their take on it, why we might think, I don't know if there's any, take your picture because you're speeding cameras. There's take a picture because you run red light cameras here in the States.
Yeah.
Are there speeding cameras?
Yeah, I recall a couple in Fort Collins, actually. The vans.
Oh, but those are, okay. Yes, there are the vans that take your picture. That's right.
That's most of it. I think they have some elsewhere, but not many. I mean, for the most part, they actually, I've seen, even red light cameras get, people start lawsuits against them and win, amazingly
People
enough.
get real mad about that here in America.
Yes, they do. I mean, if you're going to catch me, you catch me. You don't send your robot to do your bidding.
So, long story short on this, they throw a Honda Civic Type R. Mm-hmm. What else? What was the second car?
A CL55 AMG
and then
Mercedes.
And then a TVR.
Tuscan S. Now, the fun thing is, I took the numbers that he pulled, and I actually pulled real, modern day numbers to compare them.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the Civic Type R at the time, we actually did not get the Civic Type R in the U.S. until literally this year. There's a couple fun ones in here because they're actually very topical in terms of what the car landscape looks like now. Uh-huh. But at the time, the Civic Type R could do 0 to 60 in 7.2 with a top speed of 146. The one we got here this year can do 0 to 60 in 4.9 with a top speed of 170.
Whoa, that's a lot faster.
Different car entirely. So, that particular one did not really do anything. I mean, it pretty much just failed. It was like, you go fast. Nope, still going to take it. You just get a bigger ticket because you went fast.
Yep.
Yeah. The CL55 AMG at the time was 0 to 60 in 4.7, which is no slouch, and a top speed of 155.
It's essentially a Honda Civic Type R.
Not far off, really. And honestly, so they don't have a CL55 AMG anymore. They have a couple different ones. I went with the CL65 AMG because it's pretty similar. And it'll do 0 to 60 in about 4.4 seconds.
Similar-ish.
Yeah, top speed of 155 still. They have a performance package that will do 200 too.
Well, I'm sure the original car will do over 155. All those German cars are limited unless you buy the expensive ones. So 155 is certainly a limit on that one.
For sure, and they retain that limit through current production, or at least the last CL production. So. Yeah. Now the fun one, the TVR Tuscan S, I love TVRs. They're crazy. There's a TVR in Swordfish. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And it's, I don't remember if it's a Tuscan or if it's like a Cabrera or whatever. They have some crazy models, but they're just wacky looking cars.
They're super weird looking. I don't like the way they look at all.
No, I don't love them, but I can appreciate them. And they're really, like, they go more for the weight. They're super light and not crazy powerful, but really light. So that one was 0 to 60 in 3.7 with a top speed of 190. And again, topical. TVR had kind of been in some financial issues, but they're kind of back out right now, and they actually just released the Griffith, which is...
The Griffith?
Yeah, not the greatest name. It's a throwback to a mid-90s model, I believe, the Griffith 500. And they don't have full specs out on it yet, but the 0 to 60 will be sub 4, and the top speed is over 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so not a slouch by any means. And that one was rad because the Tuscan S just went so fast it didn't even trigger the camera.
So the only way to beat it is to go fast enough that it can't even see you.
Yeah, or Tokyo drifted. I mean, that's the real
just
fun.
Go sideways through it.
Yeah. Get my camera, get my license plate now, copper.
I got your picture of your face. You gotta go the opposite way.
You got to wear a mask and flip it off.
A Nixon mask and give him the, I'm not a crook.
Exactly. That's a good impression. Yeah, I remember that segment being longer because I have seen it in the past. I've obviously seen this episode before, but I was like, yeah, that was kind of like 3 1 minute chunks. It was very short.
Maybe 1 minute. It's just like, all right, here we go. Let's try the AMG. Nope.
I appreciate quick and to the point.
The AMG didn't do it. All right, cool. Let's move on. And let's move on, Jeff. Do you know who Harry Enfield is?
I Googled him and I still don't.
We're gonna put a clip in the show notes. So Harry Enfield is a comedian. I don't know much about him myself, but I know of him. He's kind of throughout British culture. But he has done, I think well after this episode, he did a sketch on one of his shows called Harry and Paul, where he impersonates Jeremy Clarkson, who is reporting live from what they call Clarkson Island. Okay. And it's an island where a bunch of Clarksons are bred, and all they do is like car reviews and say, in the world.
In the world.
Yeah, so go ahead and give that a watch.
Nice. I will, I'll pull that up and put that in the show notes.
So after shaming you for not knowing who Harry Enfield is, that's all I know about him. Is he did this one sketch that's pretty funny.
Harry Styles?
Yeah, he's essentially just a run-of-the-mill British comedian. I hope our British listeners will correct us on that.
I do too.
If you do, send an email to topgearrearview@gmail.com.
We got to get a new email address.
But they did a good interview in terms of talking about his car history. It was nice. That's pretty much all I talked about.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, his car history was stuff that I really didn't know because they're pretty much British models. But I
a Vauxhall Cavalier is a Chevy Cavalier.
Is it?
Yeah, Vauxhall is just Chevy.
I would have that guy because I hate the Chevy Cavalier.
All right. Well, we don't really like Harry Enfield on the show here, so let's.
Well, no, I did. So they were talking about the XC90, which I thought was funny. I was like, okay, I can appreciate an XC90, and I know that for whatever reason, Clarkson retains a love for that for a while. But
Clarkson loves the XC90.
Oh God,
it's almost like the Mark I GTI.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it was cool, like hearing him talk about like how they got the car. They're like, we asked these guys, nope. We asked these guys, we asked Suzuki, and they said, sure, here's a Liana.
The reasonably priced car.
Yeah.
Yes, and then they do a track review. We already kind of talked about it.
Yeah, but it was cool to see like Clarkson put a lap down with people in the back. I was like,
I know.
With that time, I was like, I'm not sure I could put down that time now. So,
well, this is the second fat joke that they made fun of poor
Jason Daw.
Jason Daw. And they first introduce him, they say, pint-sized chap. And then during the lap, he's like, that's the lap that I put down, even with a small little Jason Daw in the back. Like, did he just leave because you kept making fun of him for being fat?
Yeah, he was like, I'm done. Yeah, I'm going to eat my ice cream in peace. But it was impressive. He beat Enfield by 11 seconds.
Enfield's lap did not look that slow.
They
edited it very well.
Yeah.
When they said over 2 minutes, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I literally wrote down 1 ... and then I was like, oh no, that's a 2 minute lap. Okay.
That's awful.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, that is the introduction to the Liana, which will be with us for a long time.
A long time, yeah. I think I gotta imagine they end up going through probably 15 or so. They got a bunch of them, but I mean they're reasonably priced cars, so they just keep chucking them at them. I wonder how many. It'd be cool if there was like a way, like when I die, I hope there's a graph in heaven of like how many Suzuki Lianas were sold because of Top Gear.
I wonder.
Yeah, I mean it's not really a metric you can legitimately pull, but hopefully, yeah. I'm sure it was a good sales bump. But yeah, that's all I got on Harry Enfield. I know very little about him. I did about a minute of research, and I was like, yeah, he's British. Cool.
Man, pretty much. It's going to be like that for a while, Jeff.
I don't know. I'm looking ahead. JK is the next guy, and JK is Virtual Insanity. I mean, he's Jamiroquai. I like JK.
Yeah, Jamiroquai is a lot more popular in the UK than it is here.
But too. I still like Jamiroquai. And I've heard of them in the past. So let's
go through. Have you ever heard of Ross Kemp?
No.
Steve Coogan?
Yes.
Jonathan Ross?
Maybe.
Well, Gordon Ramsay's on this list. That's not too bad.
No, Michael Gambon's on this list. Come on.
Well, I knew you knew Gambon.
Yeah. Okay.
Rick Parfitt?
No.
I don't know who that is either.
Tara Palmer Tompkins. Not a clue. Right. Oh, look, SL55 AMG. I wonder where they got that car for the...
I wonder where they got it.
Low budget on that first episode. All right.
Hey, it's Honda Civic Type R's later on in season 2.
Sweet. I wonder if
there's XC90.
I wonder if the Tuscan's somewhere in there.
Hey, there's a TVR T350C. Yep. No, it's a different one.
Yeah, it's Tuscan-esque.
So in the middle, it was weird. In the middle of this interview, they go off and do like a science experiment.
Yeah, with the Volvo.
It was with a Volvo, not the XC90.
The Volvo.
Some other Volvo. But apparently in 2002, there was a movement among some British towns, even so much that they had to ration vegetable oil.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That you would just treat your vegetable oil that you bought or procured secondhand from the local chippy and put some white spirits into it, and then you could run your diesel on it. Now, Jeff, you used to be a diesel engineer.
I want to know more about who my local chippy is.
A chippy is the fish and chip shop.
Okay.
Where they do nothing but fry everything all day.
All right, that makes sense. Totally a thing.
Okay, so it is a thing?
Yeah, you can run a diesel car on used vegetable oil. It's a pretty popular thing, especially out here in hippie Northwest. Now there is, I mean, they showed some of it. Like you have to filter it. You can't have like excess French fries just cruising through your engine.
Fish bone.
No, it doesn't help. And you do have to typically heat it a little bit. You have to have like a heated tank for that because vegetable oil tends to be a lot more viscous than diesel fuel at ambient temperature. So.
Does the treatment with the white spirits fix that?
I don't know. That was a new one to me because I was kind of under the assumption that it was more or less just pour it right in and go. So, I mean, I can see it helping a little bit, reducing viscosity, but I gotta imagine you'd still have to have some sort of heat.
Okay.
A lot of people put an elaborate system in the trunk to heat it up beforehand and just keeps it warm and plugged in, but. Yeah, it totally works, and it makes for the best smelling exhaust in the world because it smells like French fries or whatever you've been cooking in. So it'd be smelling like chips and
fish and fried Mars bars and fried pizza, all the good stuff.
Exactly.
I liked how they were very adamant. The guy, Mr. Scientist, they had on the episode to tell you how to make the stuff was very adamant about having to report everything to the tax man.
Oh, yes.
Like, who is making their own fuel out of vegetable oil and then going and say, hey, I made 30 gallons of fuel the other day.
Here's 15 pence.
Here's a couple pounds. No one. But they were very adamant about that. And I thought to myself, oh, yeah, I mean, I guess BBC is like, essentially a government-run agency.
Yeah. They're trying to keep it on the up and up.
But then they also tell you that if you go 175 miles an hour, you don't have to pay speed camera fines.
Well, I don't think they recommended it. I think they were just doing systematic scientific testing of the system to report back to the authorities.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Who's going to go? I got 30 gallons of used vegetable oil from Wendy's over there, Mr. Taxman. And who would you even go to in the United States for that? Is there a gas taxman that we go talk to?
I'm sure there's somebody, but I wouldn't do it. I am kind of tempted. I got the diesel in the bus. I kind of want to and I got room for an elaborate system of tubes and heaters.
Just have a deep fryer back there and just have a little knob up front that switches it over to deep fry.
Yeah.
Hey, can we have French fries for dinner? Nope. Ran out of gas coming over the pass.
Needed to get up the hill. Now that I'm thinking about it more, a lot of these cars actually what they'll do is they'll have they'll keep the diesel system in place with some sort of diverter valve, and then when things warm up, they'll run a circuit from the cooling circuit back to the tank and actually use the heated.
Oh, just the heated car.
Exactly. The coolant, and to keep to get the vegetable oil up to temperature and kind of use it as more of a secondary source once things are running well. So it is. I mean, it's a cool system, and I don't know of anybody personally that has used it, but I know it's popular enough out here that it gets done.
All right. Well, I'll never do it.
Hippies.
Hippies. All right. Let's talk about the most
truncated note section in my notes. The Mazda 6.
Let's talk about the most unaware review they did on the episode, and maybe ever at this point.
Yeah.
They did a review of the Mazda 6, yeah?
Yeah.
They start the episode off by saying, what do you think about what cars does Mazda make? They make boring old cars, and they make the MX-5, which they bash, which we know they love the MX-5.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I wrote the quote down. He said it's for girls and blokes who like ABBA. I was like, I vote too, thank you very much. Oh. And I hate ABBA.
Well, then that makes you a girls.
Apparently.
You hate ABBA? No one hates ABBA.
I don't hate ABBA, but I don't like ABBA.
There's some difference there. The MX-5 is universally, like, dollar for dollar, the best driving car in the world.
I mean, yeah, in terms of, like, a two-seater sports roadster. Oh, God.
Well, I mean, I think in terms of driving performance and feel.
For a dollar.
And 50-50 weight distribution.
Yeah.
You can't beat a cheap, here in the States, Miata. It's just, it's got some funny, looks. I probably would have my head stick above it like that Shaq commercial back in the day.
You certainly would. You could not drive it in the winter because you can't close the top. I had my seat cranked way down, and if I had a helmet on, I'd still hit it on the top. I forgot that you raced yours. I'm like, I did.
You're wearing a helmet.
I wear a helmet on the street just in case.
It's a good piece of user advice. And then they keep talking about how surprised they are that this Mazda handles well.
Yeah.
And how this Mazda does well in the corners and feels so good to drive. And it's like, you've driven the MX-5, right? That's not like they have a team of good engineers working on one car and then a team of dumb engineers working on another car. It's just the same guys. They designed one good car and they said, hey, it's not terribly expensive. We'll
work on that one.
It's not an expensive car. Just put it on the rest of the cars.
Yeah. Now, I mean, interestingly, like comparing it to the Miata has had 4 generations at this point, and this would have been kind of in the meat of the second, the NB generation, which is like, I gotta say the Miata peaked at about 2000, so this is just after that, and at this point, that was a phenomenal car, a very, very good mix of value and like fun.
Yeah. So I was just the entire time they just kept saying, "It's a Mazda. Can you believe this?" I'm like, "How do you not believe this?"
Yeah.
It's like the top of the line Mazda, the 6, whatever. It's not the RX at that point. It'd be the RX-7. It's not that, but they're not dumb.
I know.
Whatever.
They got crossover engineers. So
yeah, I know, right? It's just they figured out how to do it on one car. Now they started doing all the rest of them.
This would have been the last year the RX-7 was produced. It died off in 2002. So I think it was Jalopnik that called Mazda like the most insane car manufacturer of ever, basically. I mean, you got some of these crazy supercar guys and whatnot, but like Mazda, who for the most part sells passenger, like normal everyday Jamoke cars. They had a rotary pickup back in the day, and they still made a rotary engine in the RX-8 and well into the 2000s, and like are still considering it now. And that, I mean, as much as I love Mazda, that is not good technology. It just doesn't work. So I gotta like, the 6 never surprised me. I thought it was it was a good looking car that was always gonna be on the more fun end of like the family sedan.
I also liked how they talked about it's not just a Japanese version of copying a German car, and they commented the interior. Just look at this interior. And I'm looking at it and going, this is the most unremarkable thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, this is not a copy of a German car. This is Japanese design. I'm like,
correct.
What's Japanese design? It's like buttons. I mean, do German cars not have buttons?
Nope.
No buttons.
You think it.
You probably should have copied that technology then, Mazda.
No. Buttons are out the window. We're going to use air tubes that you blow into.
It's a good driving car, but it is a very unremarkable car.
Yeah.
You know, they're going over its looks. I bet it looked pretty good. You know, my roommate used to have a Mazda 6. It was a fine car. I reasonably fit in the passenger seat, you know. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just nothing really to write home about. But I am not surprised that it drove well, given the lineage of the company.
Yeah, I mean they understand how to make a suspension so it doesn't suck, and that's a fine thing. That's, you know, and something you'd expect from somebody who's made one of the best, like, sports cars, affordable sports cars of the past, you know, 25, 30 years.
This one doesn't suck. Hey, we should make this one doesn't suck too. Okay.
Okay.
Below the British mind. I guess, would you buy a Mazda 6? I know you had a Protege back in the day. I probably would.
I maybe.
Yeah, I think
so in 2005, they made the Mazda Speed Six.
Okay.
And that car was rad.
Is that the Zoom car?
Pretty much. It's I guess it came out in 06, or the 06 model year officially. It was let me see, 274 horsepower. Yeah, turbocharged and all-wheel drive.
Ooh.
From what I hear, it was just a phenomenal, like, road. I mean, 275 anymore is not crazy, but, like, for getting the kids around town and stuff, like, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Four-wheel drive with that sort of suspension on it? That'd be a fine car.
Yeah, it was, they made the Mazda Speed 3. I think they use a very similar motor. I don't know if it's the exact same one. I'd have to check that, but they made that front-wheel drive only, which gets a little wacky, but putting that much power to all four wheels in a nice sedan, like, that's going to make a decent sleeper. Like, fun enough that you can, you know, you can smoke some BMWs off the line if you're just, you know, dicking around at a stoplight, but it's also going to be fine for getting the kids to and from school. Not crazy looking. I mean, you can drive it to work without people thinking you're a boy racer and all that. So, the whole line, I have no big hate for the Mazda line. We're actually looking at Mazda 5s right now because they're a reasonably fun sort of minivan.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I agree, though. I don't know why that would be surprising. Like, coming from, like, yeah, the MX-5's a good car at this point, a very good car. So if they make a sedan, it's going to be good.
Well, I guess that's the episode, yeah?
That's about it, yep.
Well, thank you all for joining us today on Top Gear Rearview. Please, if you enjoyed it, tell a friend. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep.
Hit us up on iTunes for a review. And hopefully, we will see you again for Series 1, Episode 2 in 2 weeks from today.
All right, sounds good, buddy.
Well, take it easy, man.
You too.